myself, no.
After the show, the sisters went their separate ways. Vicki and Jackie didn't speak a single word to each other for 3 long years. We found out that 18 years later, the sisters reconciled, and some people would say those were wasted years. I say it takes as long as it takes.
What really brought us back together was my oldest son was sick. He was dying of AIDS, and she took him in.
I said I would not let him die on the street. And even though we were fighting, like she said, I kept my word because that's something I had to do for me.
I went to her house to see my son, and we only lived a block away from each other. It was hard because I really didn't want to be with her, but I didn't want to be without him either. And I was standing outside waiting for them to bring him out, and she said,
"He's your son. Get your in my house." It's not what I wanted for her son to die, but I think that's what it took for us to all wake up.
If my son hadn't got sick, I don't know how long it would have lasted.
I think that's what woke us all up. We had to go on. But did we want to go on alone or as a family? We chose to go on as a family.
Things will work out, but it'll take time.
I had told Oprah it was a matter of time, and it would just take time for everything to heal. And that's what it did. It took time.
We let it get that far, and we shouldn't have. We knew better, okay? We knew better.
Life is short and make the most of it. I think we've learned to move on, talk to each other, be with each other, live our lives, and not make the past define our today.
All of life is about waking you up, and whatever it takes to wake you up, to no longer hold on to grudges, to no longer be resentful, to move out of the past, step out of the history, step out of whatever happened to you, and start living right now about what is happening to you and what you can do something about, whatever that takes, then that's what is necessary to move you forward. When we first started talking about men having an affair or men having affairs on this show, women would stand up in the audience and they would say, "I would not put up with it. If a man or my boyfriend or my husband had an affair, I would leave. Oprah would leave." That's what was happening in 1986, 87, 88. About 89, 90, that started to change. I don't know what happened. Was there a shift in the culture? But it started to change because more and more women, having heard about affairs, realized that either they had been in a situation where they had been betrayed or knew somebody who had been betrayed. What I've learned over the years about affairs, a man never leaves because of what the other woman looks like or what she does or what she has to offer physically, as much as for how the other person makes them feel. Back in 2008, we did a show with psychotherapist Gary Newman, who helped us get to the heart of why men cheat. So what was the number one reason you found that men cheated?
It was amazing. The majority, as you said, 92% it was said it was not about the sex. The majority said it was an emotional disconnection, specifically a sense of feeling underappreciated, a lack of thoughtful gesture.
So what you're saying in this book is that men leave women or cheat on other women because they leave because of the way the other woman makes them feel.
Right. Makes them feel different, makes them feel appreciated, admired. Men look strong, look powerful and capable, but on the inside, they're insecure like everybody else.
Yes.
They're searching and looking for somebody to build them up, to make them feel valued. And men...
So I never forgot that. And every time I'm talking to people who've gone through affairs, I'm thinking, what was it about the affair that made you feel what you felt you were not getting in your marriage? That's always sort of the underlying current for me. Having had friends who've experienced the pain and betrayal of affairs, I know that unless the other person completely understands and shows remorse for what they have done, it's really hard for somebody to get over it. And it's one of those things that women hold on to, and it shows up in every area of your life, even when you're trying not to let it be seen. And we did a show with Dr. Phil, who I thought was the most helpful in this instance of anybody I'd ever seen.
Al and Sherry were here a couple of months ago. They were fighting about anything and everything, including the toilet paper. Dr. Phil told them they were not dealing with the real issues. So that's when it all came out on this show. Sherry wasn't over Al's affair.
You said, well, he had an affair and I forgave him, but I can't forget it. Well, let's play word games. Forgive but not forget? I mean, come on. The key is, do you have emotional closure on it or not? Have the two of you sat down and honestly talked about what this did to you? Do you feel like you have communicated that to your husband?
No, in fact, I have always felt if I forgave him, if I have forgiven him for this affair, then that's where I need to leave it. So whatever I'm feeling inside, that's my pain. I need to learn how to, or figure out a way to deal with it.
But you understand what you just said is, I'm trying to be the good girl. I'm supposed to get beyond this. I'm not supposed to hurt anymore. So I will just step up here and I won't allow myself to express the hurt about the affair, but I'm going to express it about everything else that's going on in my life.
That's true.
Do you think that you understand what you did to her inside? I don't mean just that, yeah, I hurt her feelings, but do you think you understand at an intimate level what this meant to Sherry?
Yes, I do, but I don't know what to do.
You see, every little thing you do takes on monumental proportions because she is so hypersensitive because you jerked her around 2 years ago.
True.
I mean, isn't that what it's about?
Absolutely.
Now, tell me how you're going to fix that by not talking about it. Give yourself permission to deal with the issue. Give yourself permission to say, we're not going to argue about toilet paper anymore. We're going to deal with what matters to me, and that's what I'm feeling inside. No more smoke and mirrors. We're getting real, buddy, right now. Okay?
This is what everybody needs to know. Not everybody can get over an affair. And I think the beauty of Dr. Phil's lessons is you need to decide if you can get over it or can't get over it. But if you make the decision that you're going to get over it, then really get over it. If you make the decision you're not going to stay in the relationship because you feel that the betrayal was so deep that it severed your trust forever and you can no longer trust that person again, then you need to move on with it. So I think that so many people live between the two, trying to hold on to the past and yet in their head saying, but I should be able to move forward. Anytime you hold on to the past for anything or any area of your life, it will show up. It will show up in your habits. It will show up in your behavior. It shows up in the way you treat other people. It shows up in the way you feel about yourself. It shows up in your health. It has to come out in some form because it's just an energy, just like everything else. It's just energy, and it has to come out. It's been 11 years since Al and Sherry were on that show. They're still together and just celebrated their 30th anniversary. This is so important to me on many levels. It's not just about letting go of the past. It's about the ultimate lesson for all of us as human beings. It's about what I constantly remind myself of every day, that I am not my body. I am not my circumstances. I am not what everything looks like, that I really am a higher level of being and consciousness that is a soul, that my personality is not my soul, that my personality is here to serve my soul. So this story excites me so much because just for a moment, I could feel and see that along with me and Gary Zukav's words, the audience had an open door into understanding that our lives are bigger than what it looks like. That's why I love this story.
31 years old. I've been married for 4 years to my husband, Ira. We wanted to have another baby. We found out that we were pregnant, and we found out we were having twins, and we felt like we hit the lifetime lottery. 14 weeks before my due date, I went into preterm labor and was admitted to the hospital, and 6 hours later had an emergency C-section. Thankfully, with Ira by my side, they delivered 2 beautiful little boys. Ryan weighed 1 pound, 12 ounces, and Spencer weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces. They had, 10 fingers and 10 toes and just looked perfect, but they were also very tiny. On the 3rd day after they were born, Ryan had what they call a brain bleed. Another day later, they called me down from my hospital room. He was in cardiac arrest. I was sitting there watching and hoping that everything was going to be okay, but it wasn't. And then the doctor came to me and said, "We'd like to stop pumping." I told them it was okay, and we said goodbye. They let us hold him for as long as we wanted, and we said goodbye. We cried. We buried him the next day. It was very difficult because it was a very bittersweet situation. We lost Ryan, and yet Spencer was still there. All of a sudden, I went into a tailspin. I didn't have control over anything. I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. Some of the hardest times, I think, for me, are when Haley asks about Ryan. And I'll have to re-explain. Ryan went to heaven. Ryan went to God. It's hard to feel completely happy anymore. How do I not let this loss and tragedy in my life take it over?
So I'm going to let you try to answer that.
This is a matter of perspective. The perspective of the personality or the perspective of the soul. If you look at Ryan as a personality who lived for a few days and then encountered tragic circumstances and died, then you are looking from the point of view of a personality. If you look at Ryan as a soul, like yourself, like Ira, like Oprah, like me, like everyone on this earth, that left this earth when it chose, then you will have a different perspective. You will be able to see the gifts that this soul offered to you during its short stay on the earth. You will reach a place in your life where you are grateful that this soul chose to be with you for however short a time. If you do not, you will live your life in anguish, thinking that a tragedy has occurred. Whenever you see your other son growing up, you will say, Ryan should be here. When he graduates from high school, you say, Ryan should have graduated. When he finds his wife, you will say, Ryan should be getting married too.